Welcome to the January 28th Joint Select Board Finance Committee meeting. We're going through a bunch of different departments today, starting with operations, starting with the school department, Clean Lakes, Park and Rec, Elder and Human Services, Planning, Zoning, Appeals, Building Department, IT, Town Administrator, Town Council, Facilities, Select Board Finance Committee, and we will adjourn promptly by 9:20. So I'll start with the schools.
Pledge.
Oh, sure. The pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Turn it over to you.
Floor is ours. All right. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. So this evening we have the fiscal year 26 proposed budget for the school department. We've put together a couple of slides to review with you folks this evening. The talking points are all sort of consolidated onto this cover page. So what I'd like to do is walk you through some of the changes that we're proposing 26 versus the current appropriated budget of fiscal year 25. And then we've got the supporting detail behind that. We can talk about the revolving funds. We'll talk about our planned capital projects. And then certainly answer any questions that you folks have with us. We've got Janine Woods here with me tonight. We also have Superintendent Kelly Clenchy and Business Manager Steve Mark. So on the first page here, we're looking at fiscal year 25. The school department had an appropriated budget of $26,488,928. When we evaluate the salary needs for fiscal year 26 based upon contractual steps and lanes, even with some proposed efficiencies, that increase comes in at $975,234, which would represent a 3.8% increase on top of the budget, which would be a pretty bad place to start from, knowing that the town is under some financial pressure to try to level fund as best we possibly can. So what we're going to do this year is a couple of things we've done in previous years, but we've expanded upon this a little bit, is we're going to take, we're proposing to take $250,000 from school choice revenue to offset the salaries. We're also going to take $200,000 of the 240 grant. And then what's uniquely new this year is a $100,000 offset from the pre-K tuition money received. So that whittles the salary increase from $975 down to $425, which represents a 1.6 increase on the prior year's budget, which is a good place for us to start before we make any changes. From there, I'm going to talk about 4 new positions that the school department and the school committee fully support. The first being the addition of a unique athletic director hire. We have a wonderful athletic director in place. A bit of old school philosophy here, where this individual's not only the athletic director, but also a classroom teacher as well with some instruction. And the value that we receive from the current athletic director is exceptional. If you attend any athletic events, you'll see this individual out late at night. The school department would like to get in a position upon this individual's retirement to hire a true dedicated individual to just run the AD role. That seems to be the norm going forward. If you've heard from our athletic director, if you listened to the notes from the school committee meeting a couple meetings ago, Littleton Public Schools has got a wide variety of athletic teams for a town of our size. The scheduling needs, the busing needs, it's a full-time job. So upon this need, we'd like to make sure that we have the money in the budget. And then what we would do is take the existing salary that's in the previous year's appropriated and apply that to a full-time teacher as well. This being a specific ad that might not come to fruition, we hope that we don't need it. The school department and the school committee would like to acknowledge that if the money is not spent on that additional position, that we would then take the $80,000 from the budget and make a contribution to the school capital building fund. So if we were to be awarded this position and the money goes unspent, it doesn't get redirected anywhere else. It'll flow through and it'll become a year-end contribution. The next line item here is a $95,000 spend on a BCBA staff member. You folks hear us talking about this sort of year after year, how the educational needs of our students are evolving over time. This is a behavior analyst position. We'd like to support these needs of our youngest learners the best of our ability, and we feel that we're currently understaffed, and this would be necessary to fulfill all of the needs.
Can you just define BCBA?
Yes, it's a behavior analyst is the crux of it, but it's a board certified behavior.
Board certified behavior analyst. Thank you.
You're welcome. The next line item here is a $65,000 for tech support. There's, I don't know, got to be over 1,000 devices or perhaps 2,000 devices that the school department supports. Technology needs increase every year. They increase exponentially, as we're all aware. We have a small department. We feel that it's imperative that we look to hire an additional support person here to assist with all of our technology needs. And then last but not least, which I believe everyone is aware, we're budgeting for fiscal year 26, $75,000 spend for the second school resource officer, which we are happy to report is already in place. And
this resource officer is already in place at this point.
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
So we have signed a memorandum of understanding between Littleton Police and the school department.
Great.
Okay.
Before you move off this slide, that $550,000 that you're spending up at the top to lower the net ask,
Yes.
is that sustainable?
Yes.
Or so next year we'd expect something similar. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I just add to that? It's sustainable for now and for the near future, but I can't speak for 10 years.
Right,
I feel pretty good about for the next few years.
right. I was just hoping that we weren't going to be absorbing that 550 next year. Right.
This is not a one-year trick. You accepted the answer so easily. I didn't want to expand on it, but those are all annual recurring revenue that we hope to see. That those levels could change. We hope that the change would be not dramatic from year to year, and we do plan on continuing to use those offsets as we go forward.
Right, but the intent is,
The intent is to continue to offset salaries with some of those revenue sources.
Barring whatever the president does with federal grants these days.
yes. There's always contingencies, but.
All right. So to sort of wrap up the additional salary increases, it's to the tune of $740,234, which represents a 2.9% increase over the prior year's appropriated funds. Then we're highlighting 4 additional operational expenses where we feel that the current budget doesn't adequately assist our needs. So you can see that this is a really solid attempt at a level funded budget. The first 2 are related to our busing contract. So the $45,287 is an assumed 3.5% cost of living adjustment on top of the base contract that, excuse me, that we pay now for our busing. That's standard. We see that every year. The second line item there for the $89,000, that was the school department and school committee strategy to ease the 3. What did we refer to that? It's the 3. We were running 3 loops. Now we're running 2 loops with more buses and the shift and start times. So that $89,000 increase represents 1/3 of the operational increase associated with the busing. That was an expense that we asked for last year. It was granted, and next year you should plan on seeing an $89,000 line item associated with that as well. So the total busing increase would be $134,000 and change. It seems small potatoes here to be highlighting a $5,200 line item, but we've just recently successfully renegotiated our HVAC maintenance contracts. We're experiencing a net increase there of $5,230, which will be reflected on the supporting documents. And then when assessing our annual reoccurring costs associated with software updates, subscriptions, licensing fees, etc., we think that that's going to come in to the tune of around $25,000. So the total operational increases is $164,417, which is slightly more than 0.5% increase. This all rolls down forward to a $904,000 increase on top of the prior year's appropriated budget for a 3.55% increase. We can go to the next slide here, the next page, and this is just going to give us slightly deeper dive on where the 904 ends up. Can we just flip one more slide? I'm just following along with the presentation.
This is all you have because this wouldn't have shown just.
Oh, we didn't show this?
This is just in the handout.
Oh, okay.
Everybody's got the handout.
So for those of you that have the handout, these are our different cost centers that we run through school department. So I'll just by way of example, I'll highlight that top line item there, which is the regular education salary. So we said on the previous slide that our total salaries are going to be up $975,000. The variance here that's listed is $111,517 for regular ed salaries. That's after some of the offsets have been applied to the tune of $425,000. Those offsets are spread across regular ed, special ed, etc. So you'll see the regular ed variance there of $111,000, special ed variance of $169,000, student support staff salary $129,000. That is where we're going to pick up one of those additional positions. That's likely where that resource officer position is. Okay. The other instructional salary, 98 grand. That's going to be where the AD position is. If I were to jump back up, that student support and staff expenses, the 25,000. That's the tech, the additional tech spend. If you're cast your eyes a little further down the page, the transportation busing salary, it's all under expenses. That's the $134,000 increase. A couple line items below that's the $5,230 for the HVAC. So these numbers tie out to the first page per our cost centers. $740,000 increase for salaries, $164,000 increase for operational expenses for a combined 904. If you flip through to the following page, we detail this just a little bit more for you. Couple things here. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, but under that student and support staff, that's the further breakdown. So we've got the $80,000 ad, which is the athletic director, and then the $29,000 for additional guidance services. Under the athletic services, there's $85,000 there. If you go on to the next page, you'll see a couple line items that they're actually showing negative. I'd like to explain those for you. So traditionally, we had budgeted substitute spending in one bucket, whether it was long-term or short-term. It's hard to predict what those needs are going to be. What we did this, however, it does cost us, there's a little bit of a difference in cost once a substitute is on for a certain number of days, pay increases, of course. So we took a look at some historical spending there. and tried to break that out. So we actually funded or we're asking to fund a long-term bucket to the tune of 70 and keep 172,000 in the short-term needs. The line item here for paraprofessionals, where you see that spend going down, we don't actually plan on spending less for paraprofessionals. What we've done there is we've applied a good chunk of that $425,000 offset to that line item. Happy to answer any questions about this, but did want to touch on what our plan is for capital projects for fiscal year 26 and potentially 27.
Before you jump into that, Justin, I just want to thank the school committee and the administration for providing this level of detail this year. It's not only going to be a good tool for us to use, but I'm sure the school committee can use it as the year progresses. Just taking additional dumps out of the accounting system. So thank you for that.
Welcome.
And thank you to use me for creating that spreadsheet.
One hand washes the other. Right? Maybe before we talk about capital projects, we should just talk about the revolving fund usage. So that's, I believe,
Big page.
the folks have that as well. Oh, sorry. Yes. Sanjay?
The offset, where is that actually in the second page?
Sorry. Could you repeat the question?
The 550 offset in the first page,
Mhm.
where is it actually baked in the second page?
So what you would have to do is, so the second page, pages 1, 2 of the supporting documents, the variances there and the salary increases are net of the increase. So what you'll see is the $425,000 net increase. We didn't break it out for the 975 less
But
the offsets.
550 is probably somehow is part of the increase already, right?
It is.
It's part of teachers. The school department receives a lot of funds outside of what the town appropriation is. So this budget is just the town appropriation. What they're using is additional funding to offset some of the.
That, 550 is not in this.
Correct.
If you look on this sheet.
I think it's on the last, it's effectively on the last page, I think, right? Where they're.
550 is built into the numbers. I'm looking at it, but we have the second line.
Steve, is this being handled the same way? I mean, we had a similar conversation yesterday with fire where they were offsetting with some grants and we wanted it to not look different year by year. Is it basically handling it the same way?
Yes, in the long run it is, because some of those offsets happened year after year. In the past, and they will in the future, as long as like school choice remains at a certain level, they'll be able to hit it not only for the capital, but for salary. That's correct.
I'll talk about the revolving funds. You folks have that? Do you all have a copy of that? Yeah, okay, great. When we can certainly jump back to the budget should a question pop up. But what we've provided this evening is a detailed breakdown of all of our revolving funds usage. Going to talk a lot about the school choice funds and how we plan to use those as it relates to some capital projects. But what we've given you is year-end information for fiscal year 23, 24, or projected for 25 and budgeted for 26. So if we were to look at that circuit breaker and school choice accounts there, of course, we spend all the circuit breaker money. In every given year, it's the first money that we spend as it relates to those eligible expenses from the expenses that are incurred the previous year. But you'll notice a trend here with school choice money. So a nice healthy balance, continuing to grow, and then for sort of the first time ever, it kind of levels off, and that's due to the additional offsets that are detailed in the presentation, as well as our planned use to fund some capital projects for fiscal year 26, which I'll give you a little bit more detail on. As we roll through this. Nothing sort of jumps off the page at me needing an explanation or story, but wanted to provide the accounting behind revolving fund usage.
At your last meeting with the school committee, approved the financial policy?
No, we did not. Not that we voted it down, we just wasn't on our agenda, so.
Okay.
We'll have it on the next one. So for fiscal year 26, it's typical that the school department would present a couple capital projects to you folks. And we understand how precious free cash is going to be, or how precious it is. The capital expenditure projects of other departments, and then the Shaker Lane project that we're all sort of marching towards. When we take a look at our fiscal year 26 planned spend, it's to the tune of $400,000 to $450,000. Some HVAC items, some other smaller stuff that we need to clean up. And what we'd like to propose and officially go on the record is that we will have a $0 request for fiscal year 26. We plan to use school choice funds for not only 26, but barring any major changes for 27 as well. The planned ask for 27 was about the same, so somewhere between $400,000 and $450,000. We're going to handle those capital expenditures in-house and spend some school choice money down, which it should in the end represent about 10%. Our school choice balance should represent about 10% of our overall budget, which we feel is still pretty healthy number for us to be carrying in the event that some extraordinary expenses pop up. But the strategy behind that is, if we don't have to ask for that money, the school department and school committee's hope is that finance committee and select board would be able to make a contribution to the school building fund, so that as we look to approve, fingers crossed, a new Shaker Lane building, and look to what our borrowings might be, that we would be able to reduce the borrowing load, keeping in mind the associated tax bill associated with that. So at the end of the day, we have a top performing school system with a very dedicated staff. I've got 3 kids in the school system. Everybody seems to love it. We're presenting as I said, nearly a level funded budget, coming into the tune of a 3.55% increase. And a commitment to taking care of not small, but small potato stuff, $450,000 of our own capital needs over the next couple of years. There are some larger ticket items a few years out, roof project, which we're all aware of, a boiler project, that type of stuff. We certainly won't be able to fund those ourselves. We do plan on applying for any and all available state programs that might help offset those. And we will keep both the finance committee and the select board in the loop on what we think end of life is for a planned project time, so that we can all be ready to tackle those projects when necessary.
Just again, I want to thank the school committee for voting to handle those capital items within your funds. And in our preliminary numbers, we have those dollars set to go against the school building stabilization fund. So it's a big help, and if we can keep that up going forward, it's going to help reduce the cost and the burden to the taxpayers. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Just want to thank Janine Woods for her assistance, business manager Steve Mark, and Superintendent Kelly Clenchy. There's a lot of work that goes into the budget. There's some incredible efficiencies that have been created over the past few years. We not only feel that it's best for our students to stay in district because they're in school with their peers, but we want to be able to provide appropriate programming for those students that might have needs beyond traditional schooling. There's been some efficiencies created in the budget associated with that. That's not to say that we're able to keep everybody in district. There's big spends here for out of district placement, but we're fortunate that the budget is efficient as it is. We're also fortunate that every year we attract and retain some school choice students. The idea isn't there to fill every classroom to the maximum ability, but if we have a couple empty seats in a classroom and a student wants to come to Littleton and we can receive the associated revenue for that, it's a win-win all the way around. So.
Can I just ask a question? I'm just looking at the bottom of the revolving fund sheet. The balance tends to fluctuate between 5 and change million and 6 and change million like that. That's about 25% of the of the budget. And so it's I bet the number is and I'm just, is that an appropriate level? I mean, because it seems like, I love that you have the money, but I'm just curious if that's the level that you're wanting to maintain.
Yeah, so it's, fiscal year 23, it ends with what, 5.6, jumps to 6.6, 6.1, 5.5. Is that what you're referencing?
Yeah.
Some of that is associated with, if you look, circuit breaker plays into that a little bit. I don't want to take your time and highlight where all the differences might come. Like student activity.
I wasn't wondering about the
So-
I'm just
Comfort level? Yeah, comfort level, fine.
Yeah.
Again, this is money that we plan to receive and we have associated expenses with it. So we certainly want to end the year with a nice healthy balance of 5.5 like this. But it's money in, money out. So it provides a nice cushion in the event that we get surprised or we don't have that revenue source to offset against current year's expenses. Nice healthy balance.
So I did have sorry.
Sorry, I think there was another answer.
Steve?
No, I just wanted to clarify a little bit. The financial policy that we're talking about, that Mr. Zanuni is talking about, the 10% was a number of school choice balance, not a total revolving fund. Many of these revolving funds are geared specifically towards specific functions. Food service, athletics, hydrogen, things like that. Circuit breaker is a big number in that. Circuit breaker, we get 1 year, we spend it the next year, then we get it. So that number kind of rolls forward. So the financial policy that Mr. Venuti is talking about really dealt specifically with the school choice balance being like a percentage of the operating budget, that 10% number.
Just think of school choice like our stabilization fund basically. The rest of the numbers here, the fees for certain programs that you have to spend for that program, like pre-K, things like that.
Okay.
Tiger's Den is Tiger's Den.
Right, so in 25, it's 3.3 and 10% would have it be at 2.6, so it's.
That's part of the reason they're now picking up their capital,
Right.
to reduce that balance down,
Oh, it's great.
and we're able to put that money into school
Yeah, no,
stabilization.
it's great, I'm just trying to understand.
Correct. So by the end of 27, we should have reduced, other than revenue coming in and normal expenditures, we're going to use an extra, almost $1 million of that school choice fund for capital projects.
Okay, and it's very much appreciated.
So
Sorry, I was going to say, we're also very fortunate that we've had somewhat level enrollment in the schools. I know there's a lot of talk about housing, but if, we don't have new construction, I think the trend is that you lose enrollment because people, after they put their kids through school, they stay in their house, especially since Littleton's such a great place to live. So it's wonderful to be managing a budget where, you know, the kindergarten class every year coming in has the same sort of look and feel as prior year's class. We don't have to have this big, you know, we're not anticipating this big swell up. We haven't had the budget for a big swell up or any bubble years. I think like our bubble year is like there's an extra 20 or 30 kids in the class, something like that. So it's very manageable.
We've seen when there really were bubbles and
Mhm.
so much harder.
One of the things, Brian, with our discussions with the school department about school choice is their contribution to the school stabilization fund because of their capital, basically. Where we look at that every couple of years and make sure that the level of school choice is maintainable. So if students start to go down, they're certainly not going to be able to fund it to the level that we had talked about. So
Yep.
we agreed every couple of years we would take a look at this.
Absolutely. Yep.
So on the revolving funds, there's a couple that go negative.
Mhm.
In 27?
In 26. There's the non-resident tuition.
Yeah, they should be zeros at the end of that. Those are typos on my part.
Okay, and like the athletic gate isn't going negative, but it will if you keep
It
it.
won't go negative, and again, I apologize for that. That's
Okay,
my rush to try to get this out on time.
Okay.
So
okay,
we-
thank
we-
you.
We don't put revolving funds into the negative.
Okay.
We try not to, right, Michelle? If we do, we hear from her
Okay.
and the state.
I'm fine. I'm good. Anyone else have any questions or?
Yeah, I just have one, it's a forward looking, we've been talking about the roofs for a number of years now. And we keep talking about a quote, $4 million roof. Realistically, is that a half realistic number at this point, or is it gonna be, in their
That's-
mind, significantly
So
more?
for the high school, I've talked to, an engineering company and a roof consultant company. And that number is, they both agreed that that number is a pretty close number. It's gonna escalate as we go out, as prices go up. We're also gonna look to apply for MSBA funding for some of this. I don't know when we'll get accepted into an MSBA program if we do, but the 4 million that includes roofing, that includes engineering costs, that includes OPM, because you have to, it's over $1 million, so you have to have an OPM.
And when can we apply? I know there's
There's a
calendar.
window that opens up, I think in February, it's open up till March to apply this year for MSBA for that project. I don't remember the exact dates, but,
Okay.
we'll submit the SOI and we'll be coming to the board of selectmen to approve the SOI to be submitted, whenever that date opens up.
Okay, okay, so it's imminent, right? Just my concern was.
Applying for it
when
is
we
imminent,
start the
acceptance is not,
process,
correct.
right? Okay, great.
There had been some question of whether the group is old enough yet.
Right.
And
Correct.
now it's old enough.
Right, so
Great.
typically
Great,
MSBA
yes.
does not look at projects or accept projects where the roofs are less than 25 years old. If you look at the data, a year or so ago is the last time I looked, the average age of the roof that they were accepting into the MSBA project was 28 or 29 years old. That was the average age. We're not there. We're at about 23 years old for the roof, so we can apply. I suspect we won't get accepted because of the age of the roof, but if we then apply the
Then
next
they
year and
make
the
it
next
roll.
year, it comes to their radar.
Okay, great.
So we also hope to bundle that with, potentially bundle that with high school boilers as well, so we can get MSBA funding for all of that. At the same time, that's hopefully the plan, so.
Okay,
And the other roof estimates are also solid. I know they're a little farther out, but
Yeah, the middle school roof is not so solid, that's just kind of based off the square footage on what I think the high school is gonna be, and then translate that into the square footage of the middle school roof. So it's not solid, we haven't had engineering company get up and actually do an assessment of the middle school. We actually paid, Socotec, which used to be, I forgot who it was, to get up and do an actual engineering study on that roof, and we have those studies available. I shared those with the town facility director, Eric, as well, for his review.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good luck at the game tonight.
That's two. Okay. Up next is Clean Lakes.
Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Chairman. So, just wanted to, considering this is Clean Lakes, this is Chairman Folson's, first, introduction to the budget process. So I thought it would be good for him to come in and, do a brief overview. We'll go through a couple of the slides here that highlights the ask that he is, that he's made the request to the town for. Then maybe highlight some of the things that the Clean Lakes would like to do and potential some other funding sources that really came out of the stakeholders meeting that many of you were there. That happened some months ago. And so if we can, right there, if we can, the operator, the highlights, we met with the Clean Lakes Committee and, as part of the budget process. And there was a $25,000 ask by Clean Lakes. And we're going to add $10,000 as a new line item to FY26 budget, under the operating expense. And that we'll put that under the Public Works, budget. And, what we can, the balance of the $15,000 is a request by, Chairman Folsom to put into a stabilization account for the Clean Lakes. And that $15,000 will be added at the May 6th annual town meeting. And then at that point, I can turn it over to you if you want to just highlight some of the things you would like to be doing over the next year and.
Certainly. Thank you, Jim. Been a bit of a rough road for us of late. I don't know if you've all heard, but we're pursuing a new permit this year. Most of our annual expenses go right now to removal of aquatic invasive plants. It has taken up an awful lot of our time and money, and it's out of control. We've come to realize that we're going to need a larger permit from the state, and they actually refer to it as a light dredging permit. We had hoped to have that in place by this spring. Looks like it's not going to be in place until October, which means we lose an entire season of potential harvesting. We're going to shift around. We're reallocating funds right now. The funds that are being offered up, we're very grateful for, because we can use those for the assessment of the different lakes. $5,000 for a survey, Dolphin Pond, to assess conditions there in terms of what invasives and what plants need to be attended to. Another $5,000 to examine the beaver dam at Long Lake. We've also got monies from the water commissioners, of course. We have a total budget of $301,600 that we're asking for this year. We've secured $108,000 from the water commissioners. We've secured $110,000 from the Community Preservation Committee. Very grateful for their support, and of course these monies will help too with the permit holding up an awful lot of the cleanup that we were hoping for. We're going to shift over in a couple of our lakes to herbicide treatments for a season. We'll be able to get a smaller permit for that to take care of those things, but we're also looking in the short term towards comprehensive assessments of each of our lakes. So we'll have from an engineering firm, a roadmap essentially to guide us for cleanup, of each lake and base that on real science rather than just our own desires. Sort of puts things into an official capacity. So we're very grateful. We've been diversifying this year. We have funding for next year coming from 4 different sources, hopefully, and we're just at sourcing from this year. We still have refund, or we have funds still outstanding from about 5 different funding sources. So we're scrambling to our best. Thank you all for your generous contribution.
CPC, I understand sort of reclamation sort of fits under the CPC umbrella.
Mhm.
Going forward, when does it get to the point where it's more like maintenance? And I'm not sure CPC umbrella covers that. So
It doesn't.
I mean, what is the thought process there as to how you go forward?
It is a fairly new area for the CPC to fund activities regarding water bodies. We consider it open space. Rather than recreation but it's restoring open space. And it's maintaining those facilities because oftentimes we have lakes that are adjacent to conservation land, so on. And we like to look at those things as not routine maintenance, but more management responsibilities.
But
so far that's been going.
does
I know in
what
Westford,
does the
it lasted
state-
for 10 years. And then they said this is more maintenance than anything else, and they cut off some funds. So I mean, I don't think that's a forever source, but for specific tasks, we're looking at a new dock design for Spectacle Pond this year. They're funding that. They're funding herbicide treatments and also future eco harvesting at Manawanaki. We've been very generous.
But again, what is the state is usable? So that's the key to me.
So Saul, do you have any comments being on the CPC about where you draw the line on the?
Not specifically, I mean, the line is described as maintenance or things that are in sort of a regular scheduled budget, but I think it's a fairly open question to get to something like invasive treatment. I think there's probably examples on the land side of fairly regular invasive treatments. I don't think
Yes, so
I just. I think it's a fragile question. I just don't want to commit to something on an ongoing basis and find out that it doesn't fit.
Exactly, and that would be, I mean, this introductory treatment would not be that, but to your point of when does it reach the tipping point that it becomes that? In as much as I respect the position of the chairman, we will confer with town council to be able to talk with the state. That makes it's their call.
Right. No,
Whether we like the
as long
answer-
as we're doing that, I'm fine.
Yes, sir. No, absolutely.
A little bit squishy to me.
Yeah, it's on everyone's radar. Everyone's taking that into account, that this is finite, that this is going to hit a wall at some point. We're trying to figure out how to handle it going, past that. Everyone's fine.
The monies for stabilization we'll be able to use for what would be considered more routine maintenance, recurring expenses and things like that. That's why we're hoping to establish that. So very good.
So any of your other funding sources going into the stabilization account?
Not at this point in time, but we're hoping that we can reach an agreement with Parks and Rec and they'll contribute.
Okay.
And then, of course, the bulk of the monies that we're still receiving right now are from the water commissioners.
Yep.
We're having, well, we have challenges at every level, but
No, the water
we
commissioner's
appreciate
money can only be spent on spec pond, right?
that's true. They also have some oversight funds that they're putting towards our surveys of the lake quality, lab tests and so on for each lake. So we've got a bit for that.
They have some kind of an agreement with Westford. Reciprocal agreement with Westford. Is there any way to play that?
That works out
Between, Littleton Water and Westford Water to get something going there.
It would be great to coordinate that.
Yeah.
Right now we have an open invitation for all Littleton residents to go swim at the town beach in Westford. That's sort of their open space or their access points.
Yeah, it's just another thought. Maybe there's some opportunity to work with Westford and
Takes an awful lot of coordination.
yeah.
So I have a question more for Jim and Ryan, and this is more of a bookkeeping. Is there a reason we put this under highway rather than conservation?
I think it had to land somewhere, so,
Yeah.
so that's how it ended up falling. So it's the same thing, sustainability committees under DPW as well.
Okay. Yeah, it just seems like the conservation agents are the ones that are kind of directing the fund, so I don't know if it may.
Yeah,
It's-
I mean, it's
It's probably
really-
equivalent. It just would be cleaner if we're likely to move it later. Because it's very hard when we move things in the budget to track how the expenses change. We every couple of years, we move things between different accounts and it makes it look like there's a huge increase and decrease. And if we think it's going to end up there, or if it makes logical sense to end up,
Makes
maybe we
sense.
should do it earlier.
You mentioned Westford pulling their funding, and I know that you were sharing invasives control for Mattawanakee or whatever they call it over there in Westford. So how is that going to affect like next year and going forward? Are you going to reduce the invasive control for that lake or?
Plans are to attend to our half of the lake.
Okay,
We are crushed that they will not be contributing in kind.
but you're just going to try your best with what you have.
We're hoping to make a demonstration project of our half
Okay,
so that they'll say, we got to jump on board here.
okay, thank you.
John, is this 15,000 for the stabilization fund, something that you're gonna be looking as an ongoing contribution?
We would like to continue that into the future and use as much of that, have that available to us for most anything that comes up. And things always are coming up.
Then you realize the town meeting has to approve the withdrawal from that account.
That would be fine, whatever stipulations. I knew it would be some sort of formulation. But yeah, we'd be happy to say, let's tap that and come before you to.
So it gives you like, I mean, 2 town meetings a year is 6-month lead time and what you need to spend.
We are juggling the schedule as we speak.
Okay.
So it's a little frustrating. The delay on the dredging permit is the worst yet, but we will see that through this year. Spec pond is going to suffer, but we'll make up for that the following spring.
So I just want to remind everybody on committees, this 15,000 is not included in anything we have here. So we have a balanced budget in front of us. That means we need to make 15,000 cuts from somewhere to fund this. You can take it out of my salary. Okay, so we
get out of Chuck's salary.
So, like I said, we still need 15,000.
Cut my salary in half.
And we still need.
See where this is
But it's a
going.
great honor. Thank you.
I noticed you didn't volunteer.
I know I have no salary.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I do it for the love.
Next up, Park and Rec. You have a page number, Ryan?
So page number for Parks and Rec
I did
is,
print out if you guys.
hold on 1 minute.
265.
I get Tuesday. 65.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time. So just going through, the basic template of our budget. We had a really amazing year. We were able to run 454 programs and served over 6,200 participants in fiscal year 2024. So that actually was a 16% increase from the previous fiscal year. 11 special events. Our agency won Agency of the Year from Massachusetts Parks and Recreation Association. We were able to obtain a grant from United Way that helped our after-school program for the sum of $27,295. And the big project we had been working on the prior year was the Open Space and Recreation Plan, and that was approved by the Department of Conservation. So we're set for the next 7 years. We sold out a majority of our summer programs for the third year in a row. And then we were able to work with the town administrator's office and be able to complete an ADA compliant walkway at Long Lake Beach, which has been a huge benefit to the public. We've had a lot of really good feedback about it. So thank you for the support on that. So our department goals, we do have a lot going on. So we're trying to keep our goals relatively simple. So essentially, we're still working on the seven-year strategic plan. Obviously, we have all the data and information from the Open Space and Recreation Plan, the 2017 Master Plan, and the 2023 Statistically Valid Recreational Needs Study. With that, we're going to be focusing on parks, facilities, and playgrounds within the town, and looking at developing solutions for ADA and AAB access issues and improvements for those areas and facilities. Our parks and playgrounds are really consolidated. So the number 2 part here is researching land opportunities to see if there's any possible right of first refusal with town council. We have 3 main areas for parks here in town, and they're very consolidated to one specific area. So we want to look into seeing if there is a possibility to develop those facilities, being parks and playgrounds, in other locations within towns that hopefully we would be able to do so in the future. So that's a goal, is to look for those. And then the last is we have a large, it's gone. We have a large list of projects coming up or in various states of completion. So we are at the point where we are working on the design for the middle school tennis courts and rehab to Whitcomb baseball field. That process is going along really well. Completion of the renovation for the space at 36 King Street. We're working internally on that plan to meet the department's future indoor space needs, and then being able to implement that strategic plan once we get that set. So those are our main goals for fiscal year 2026.
Oh, wait, but on the devisal plan to meet your indoor needs?
Yeah.
Do you know what your indoor needs are, or are you coming up with what? Are you coming up with a plan to meet the needs, or are you
Right.
coming up with what the needs are?
No, we're coming up with a plan to be able to meet the needs. So we'll talk about it a little bit later when we look at the possible capital projects in the future. But one of the areas that we're trying to work out, again, with town administrator's office, facilities, school department as well, is, being able to use the space that we have at 36 King Street. But we also have some programs that need to have physical sites that we will not be able to house within 36. So what's that?
So you have some kind of a document that says what your indoor needs are?
We're working on that, is
Okay,
the point that I'm making. Yeah.
okay.
We leave this, the tennis courts and the baseball field.
What's that?
Now it's early in the process.
Yeah.
For that project. We still on budget,
Yes, sir.
on time?
Yep.
Okay.
Trying as best we can.
Had to ask.
Yep. No, I appreciate it. Yeah, Tim's been doing a really great job with that, and the company that we're working with, Activitas, has been fantastic about being very timely with things. So yeah, we're doing good. All right, next slide, please. All right, so capital requests. The dock component of things, I'm not going to go over that because we've talked with FINCOM and Town Administration's office that's something that we want to look at going through CPC for that. So for tonight, it doesn't really make sense to go over that. The one request that,
Excuse me, but the reason for it is what?
so the reason for the increase or the coming back and asking for funds. So when we originally did the quote last year, because we were approved for the 42,436 at Maytown meeting, we had calculated in a 6% inflation. But when we checked back in with the company, because the quote's only good for 90 days. So when we knew that that was something that we were going to go ahead and move forward with, the increase had actually gone up to about 15%. So to be able to complete those, sorry, so to be able to complete the project as we wanted to be able to do it, we either would need to add an additional, look at mine really quick. $15,268 to complete the entire design as we had originally designed it, having a fishing dock that would actually have a T on it. And that's something that, you know, we wanted to be able to complete that. If we needed to be able to pare that back, we could do a pared back version of the design for, I think it was around $5,000. But the fishing dock would be really drastically cut off. And that extra space that you would need for the T for people to kind of maneuver around would not be part of it. It would just be a long shot, so to speak. So yeah, that was the difference for that.
Okay, so that's a project that you'll be going to CPC for.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So the one that I did want to talk about tonight is the van. So we in May 2022 had received 37,000 in capital funding to purchase a new van. Obviously, prices have gone up quite a bit since then. We ran into issues with actually finding a 12-passenger van that was kind of the time frame right after COVID, where a lot of the auto manufacturers were having issues with microchips and being able to maintain parts. So to actually get a 12-passenger van, you had to get onto a list and have one built for you. So after 2 years of searching and trying to be on that list, we kind of gave up on it. I did get back in touch with one of the representatives on the state bid list that we've worked with in the past, and they said that they are actually having some luck finding them. So the updated quote that they gave me was $61,804. So if we were able to maintain and use that 37,000 that we still have from 2022, and add on the $24,804, then we would be able to update, get rid of the old 2009 van and replace that one with a new one. Okay. You can skip that one. We already covered it. So this one is, I don't want to spend like a whole lot of time on here. So I just want to say, you know, our department is very aware of the large financial requests that are coming to the town in the near future. So the projects listed on this slide are items that are referenced by that open space and recreation plan, the statistically valid recreation needs study, or the 2017 master plan. So again, being aware of that potential debt increase, we know that the reality of the completion dates that we're asking for are not realistic within, these projects. So that's kind of why we put the or longer, right? So, but because these items are things that are being requested from the public within, those reports that we're having, that we're collecting that data, I feel it's my job as a director to make sure that we bring those forward, so that it's something that, the FinCom and Select Board are aware of. So,
Sorry,
yeah.
what was your most wanted request?
Oh, I hadn't finished on that. Sorry, Ryan. So at this time, if we are looking out of like these four,
No, I mean, it says in the survey, this was the second most, this was the third most, but you don't say what the.
I'm just saying that, when we actually did those specific reports, so the recreational needs study, that the dog park came in as that was the second most wanted from the town.
Right, so what was the top one that was wanted? You got the number 2 and the number.
Oh,
3.
I got you. I don't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, I apologize for that. So,
Cricket.
oh, it was Chuck.
Literally was.
I know it literally was.
You're not kidding. It was cricket.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep. Yeah. Thank you, my friend. So, all right, there you go. Okay, so operating needs. So, the amount that we get from general fund, is pretty simple. So, obviously it covers the, director, the assistant director for salary and benefits. Covers longevity. Both Tim and I have been here for anywhere in that between that 7 to 10 year frame. Utilities, and those utilities, we've actually broken those down further this year just to be a little bit more transparent with those expenses. So the utilities specifically are water and electric costs only. We have professional services. Those are going to be items like trash removal, porta potties, pest removal, tight tank pumping. And then the last one would be vehicle supplies and repair. So specifically for annual inspections for the vehicles and any vehicle repairs that we might have. So that's what's covered in the utilities. And then special events. This amount for special events, we also have a special events account for the revolving funds. But this is specifically for any events that we put on that is no cost to the public. So if we do, say, we have our ties and tiaras dance that's coming up, we charge for people to come to that. That's actually going to come out of our revolving account. It wouldn't come out of this one. So just to clarify the usage of that. So yeah, that was our request for this year. So the change is, in the past, we had 50% of the office coordinator covered by the general fund. That is being removed. So in fiscal year 26, we'll be taking on the full wage and benefits of that office coordinator, which estimated around $70,245. So operating needs in the future, if that's something that we're able to relook at being able to cover, a portion of that office coordinator. It is a position that is administrative. They help with the payroll, AP packets, cash, check, credit card turnovers, all of those things that keep our we'll call it small business running. So, it is helpful to be able to have that support for that role specifically. Okay, before we go into this, are there any questions on general fund before we go into revolving?
So in the budget, in the book, you have $20,000 in professional services as a new expense this year.
It's not a new expense. All we did was, instead of just throwing utilities in there, we broke it down into specific, areas. So as I had mentioned, the professional services are, people that we've contracted, so trash removal, we, have
Okay,
a
so
company
that's
that
what
we
you're call-
use.
Okay, so that's what you're calling the professional services.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you.
Mhm. Okie dokie. All right, so this was asked for last year, so I wanted to make sure that I did this. And just gave you guys an overview of our revolving budget. So if you guys are interested and want me to come back and do like a further presentation, I'm happy to do that. I just want to keep this on just, an overview. But in general, this is how we budget out our revolving funds. We do break down a majority of our programs and areas into specific account lines. So on this sheet, we have the beach, we've got Camp T, our community education programs, adult sports leagues, after-school programs, our preschool, our playground program, and there'll be one on the next page that's a Tehadawon extended program. Those were kind of offshoots of Camp T and have grown, so we've given them their own budget lines. And there were a few others that were on there. Tennis vacation program, ski program, and then the field maintenance, which we do try to keep that one specifically at a zero balance level. So the field maintenance fees that we get from like the youth sports organizations or other folks that would be renting the field in comparison to, having that sports council representative. And also any of the expenditures, a lot of that is paint for the athletics. If we need to update any of the equipment, say, any of the bags at the baseball field, all of those things, we work with Highway to accomplish all of those. And then we have our expenditures that some may be direct, some may be indirect, with the programming that cover the rest of the things that make our department run. So overall, we do have obviously a lot of about $1.4 million that comes in through the department, but we also expend a lot of that out. So that's something that we try to be really cautious of. Our mission statement is to be able to do an affordable program, and we do take that very seriously. So that is something, we do try to be in the positive each year by a little bit. So, prior to the changes that we kind of added on, we were about 16,500 in the positive. So adding those components on, then, we have a little bit of a deficit that we've got to make up. And that's something that once we know what our set budget is, so we will go back and change any of the rates. I shouldn't say change, but like incorporate those costs into the program fees, so those can be spread out across the programs, usually starting September through August. We kind of have a unique setup so that our programs, or I guess the fiscal year, changes right in the middle of our programs, just when they start. So, I guess a calendar year kind of makes a little bit more sense, but, it adds a little bit of a challenge, but we work around it. And then the last component that was on there is the Park Commission has been in touch with the Clean Lakes Committee. They have not come to an agreement yet about funding, so that's something that they are working on.
Can I ask you a question from 2 slides back?
Yeah.
There was beach revenue of
Yeah.
125. Is that for swim programs?
For beach wages? Oh, okay, great question. All right. Yeah. So all of the revenue that's in here. Sorry, I itemized it out. So the revenue specifically is memberships. So you can do a season membership, and that essentially allows you to have a parking sticker as well as the ability to, just use the beach whenever you like. We also have parking and day passes. So if you choose not to do the seasonal pass, the parking and day passes would just be if you want like a 1-day visit. Snack Shack food sales, all prepackaged stuff. We do have programs. So our sailing program is extremely well attended. We've also started doing a fishing program for kids in the last year that's done really, really well. And we also have beach yoga that takes place out there. And then the last component for the revenue is the Snack Shack. So like rentals, we have canoes, kayaks, and paddle boards that people rent.
Okay, that's awesome. I'm just pleasantly shocked to see the numbers so high.
It's running out of deficit now, though.
It is. And it's one of those things where we try very hard to be able to keep that a balanced budget. But the reason we kind of budget it in the negative is knowing that we're going to hopefully be zero or in the positive a little bit, but knowing that we can use the other programs to cover those costs if we need to. So the last couple of years, we've had some new program staff on board. So at the beach, we tend to run the employees a little bit, the scheduling a little bit fatter, if you will, because it's a safety concern, right? Obviously, we want to make sure that there's enough lifeguards on staff, as well as the recreation attendants that can help, so that there's never any issues or any stress about not having enough people there. So that's one thing. The other component of it, if we do have rainy days where we do have staff that are scheduled, we are required to pay at least 4 hours for them to be scheduled, because obviously if we had canceled it in a more advance, but when it's raining or there's a thunderstorm, you can't necessarily know that that's going to happen in a timely manner. So, some of those, it depends on the weather. 3 years ago, we had like nothing but rain. It was a dismal summer, but, it's kind of a bit of a fickle area.
I'd be interested more in that. Like, I don't know what the $40,000 in expenses for the beach.
Yeah. So the expenses, they cover things like, because we have lifeguards, each of the lifeguards is certified as a pro rescuer. So there's medical equipment and supplies that we need to keep on site. A fair amount of those things do go past their sell-by date, unfortunately, shortly. So that is something that we usually have to replace those items every year. We have uniforms for the staff. Lifeguards tend to cost a bit more because they need to have a swimsuit. We need to be able to make sure that they actually have like a sweatshirt, all the kind of things to be able to keep them warm, glasses, visors, whistles, all of that stuff. So uniforms. We have program supplies. So for the 3 program areas that I talked about, the yoga, fishing, and sailing, we do train all of the staff in-house. However, we still have to pay Red Cross to be able to have those certifications. So training, beach supplies. So that's everything that, that you need in the restrooms, as well as Snack Shack items that we sell. And then facility and equipment repair. So all of that, adds up.
So I'm looking at this, the beach is running in negative,
Mhm.
and compared to a lot of the other things, a significant negative bucket. And you have increasing on the next slide, increasing like overhead at 432,000. So you're gonna have to increase your beach fees to try and mitigate that 21,000 negative that you're running the program at.
That's one way of doing it. Yeah.
Because you're relying a lot on Camp T
Right.
to cover all this.
Yep.
And there's probably a limit on what you can do to Camp T also.
Agreed. Yeah.
So how are you going to not only increase the revenue to cover your deficit on the beach, but also increase your revenue to give money to the Clean Lakes as a donation? How is that going to work?
Yeah, so that's something that we're gonna have to be able to figure that out. We've talked about, I think even today we were talking about, does it look something like a, I don't want to use the term service fee, but that's something that people are see commonly, but it being, something knowing that this fee goes towards, helping to keep Long Lake clean. So that's something that we could potentially look at. It is something, if we need to, we can look at raising the prices of, all of the programs across the board. We can look at the non-resident rate and see, that's something we've tried to keep kind of, just a little bit over what we've done, but that's something where we really could increase those fees, and that's an area, that definitely has potential. So there's definitely a lot of thought that's gone into it, but we have not committed to any specific solution yet. Yep. Yep.
Paul, do you have anything to add on that at all?
Just on the Clean Lake side, we are considering probably a surcharge to go with both the memberships and day passes. So it's kind of called out. I think this is the piece that's going to that. It won't be a fixed amount. It will be dependent on attendance and weather and those sorts of things. But that's the kind of direction we're making.
Okay.
Anything else?
Any other questions? Nope.
All right. Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
Other and Human Services.
Good evening. I'm Liz Trudiak. I'm the Director of Elder and Human Services. Happy to be here tonight. I usually like to start all of our budget presentations with just a very brief overview of who we are and what we do. I would hate for you to walk away thinking we just do bingo and Meals on Wheels, because we are so much more than that. So this, what you see on the screen right now, is an overview of what we do for our services. We generally try to focus on emotional, intellectual, physical, and social well-being through programs and social services. We provide events and activities as well as social services to all ages throughout town. Our department is 4 full-time staff, 1 part-time staff, and 5 van drivers. And we tend to, despite how busy this slide looks, we manage things very, very smoothly. On Monday alone, we had 9 activities running, including drop-ins, including our social services, and everything ran great. Next slide. Typically, we see about 48 to 50 people per day coming in through our doors. That's in our current space here in Town Hall. 70% of the people we see are over 60, 30% of the people we see are under 60. And that's generally been the statistic for past 5 years or so. We love data and we love tracking the numbers and everything that we do, as you can see by the various charts I've put up so far. This past fiscal year, we had a 12% increase in our event sign-ins. Some other notable things that we have seen are this past fiscal year, we completed 80 housing applications, 285 medical equipment loans, and 123 fuel assistance applications. When we talk about our accomplishments, there's the the people things that we do, and then there's the operational things that we do that are larger. So these are some of the people focused things that we do that I wanted to highlight for you. 2,456 bags of food delivered from the Loaves and Fishes Food Pantry through our volunteers and our van drivers. Over 2,000 van rides provided from our van drivers. 7,497 Meals on Wheels delivered. 6,199 hours of senior tax work off completed, and that is 91 households of workers. 125 Shine appointments completed, and that's a 39% increase over last year for our one certified Shine counselor. And Shine is serving health insurance needs of everyone, and that is a Medicare counselor. And then 4,749 fitness sign-ins. So we're busy. For our more operational accomplishments, this is what we're most proud of this past year. We received a $10,000 grant from MCOA for caregiver respite scholarships. And that was where we were able to give $1,000 financial aid scholarships to caregivers in the community, caring for a loved one with Alzheimer's or dementia. We also received another large grant, the Community Transit Grant Program for an electric vehicle that we'll be receiving in hopefully by the end of June of this year. That's an approximately $115,000 vehicle, which we are very excited about. We implemented new innovative nutrition opportunities for residents, adding 165 additional opportunities to engage in a meal in FY24, and that's not counting the 662 meals that we served annually in our senior diner. You can drop in anytime at noon downstairs and have a meal. And then we broke ground on our new building, which is currently on schedule and within budget. So for some goals for the next fiscal year coming up, we're obviously looking forward to expanding our services more and making our services more accessible. In mid-May, we plan to have our grand opening of the center on Shattuck Street. Goal number 2 is to expand our daily meal program, which we call our congregate meal program. We would like to increase it at least 25% and hope to do that by bringing new faces in the door. We're already seeing a lot of new folks coming to check us out. They've heard about the building project. We had 13 new people come in since last week to sign waivers to sign up for our programs, brand new faces for people we've never seen before. So that's very exciting. And then goal number 3 is to enhance our Alzheimer's and dementia outreach efforts through collaboration with public safety, which we've already started working on with the police department. So on to the numbers. So all the things that I just described that we do is within this teeny tiny pie slice of the overall town budget. We provide, I think, a pretty big value for how small of a slice we are. Our FY26 budget is level service and nearly level funded. Most of our budget is the people power, it's the salaries. We keep our operating expenses very low. And I've also added in on the slide the MART funded driver salaries. So the Montechusett Regional Transport Authority funds 100% our van drivers up to 6 positions. So I've added that to also to give a better picture of what our salaries look like. We fund our mission in other ways as well. So to provide a more accurate depiction, here's where our other outside funding sources come from and what they fund. So every year we receive a formula grant from the state. This past year, it was $37,830. That formula is they give us $15 per elder based on the last census. So we use this funding for most of our fitness and wellness program instructors. So this pays for a majority of our programming. I already mentioned the MART funded driver salaries, the small grants, the just under 10,000, that was like our small grants to provide, like we received money to put backup cameras in our vans. Those are some of the small grants. And then our donations and our gift funds, $65,168. A large chunk of that was directly to TREAD, which I broke out. That was $42,000 in donations straight to TREAD, which is tax relief for the elderly and disabled. So that is a direct service that's not necessarily operational, but I wanted to highlight that a lot of the donations that we do receive go directly back to serving the community. So to drill back down into the numbers and what we're asking the town for, here are our operating expenses. As you can see, a majority of our expenses are the Crosstown Connect fee, which is our van dispatching fee. That is an intermunicipal agreement with Acton and Sudbury, and I believe one other town that I can't recall off the top of my head right now, but they provide us 2 full-time van dispatchers, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. For last year, it was $11,500. And then this year they've increased the price, but I will get to that in a second. You can go to the next slide, Ryan.
And that's working well. We didn't used to do the regionalization, but now we are. Is it working to your satisfaction?
So as long as I've been here, we've used Crosstown Connect, so about 5 years or so. I think it's fantastic. We wouldn't be able to hire 2 full-time van dispatchers for the cost. So let me talk about that right now. So the past several years, their fee for us has been $11,500. Acton is the fiscal intermediary of that intermunicipal agreement. They did a study to determine how the funding is looking with that and determined that we should be paying more into that. So our bill just went up from $11,500 to $27,000 and change. So it just about tripled. So in conversations with the TA's office, we decided that we would put in $20,000 for FY26 budget. We'd cover the rest through our formula grant, which is an allowable expense. That is offset. I'm going back one more time. That increase is slightly offset by a decrease in our professional services line. For several years, we've used a mental health referral service called William James Interface Program. We were able to find a comparable service that is fiscally better for us. So we saved just about $7,000 switching, and that begins February 1st of this year. So this operating budget overall was probably the most challenging that I've done yet while here in Littleton, partly because I'm planning for the unknown, moving into this new building in just a few short months. I have asked, or I've brought to this table a few years in a row that I will probably need to increase staff once we're in the new building, probably need more administrative staff. But after a lot of careful consideration, I don't want to make a request right now for FY26 until I'm actually in the building. I don't want to commit myself to a certain position, job description, the whole 9 yards without actually being in the building, living in it, seeing what we actually do need. So again, I'll just put it on the radar for the future that we will need additional staff. I don't have an ask for FY26 though.
Would it be fair to say though that, and I applaud that approach to staff, but I would expect that moving into the new building, you will have some unexpected, unforeseen expenses that we shouldn't be surprised at. They're moving into a whole new building. Who knows what the expenses would be? So
it's a great unknown.
Right. So I can imagine us needing to do something, if not now, in another 6 months.
So I would have phrased the question a slightly different after Chair Venuti whacked my hands a couple of years ago when we were adding staff in October's town meeting. I would suggest that we allocated money now with the intention of hiring someone more towards October, right? So that we're not coming back and doing something that we decided we shouldn't be doing. I don't want my hand slapped again.
In the short term, could you utilize the senior staffing to
That,
Well,
form this thing?
Yeah.
it's not a short term though, it's a full calendar year effectively, right? If we're not doing it in October.
Right, but until she really gets a handle on what her actual needs are, if we can staff it with.
Yes, I fully support not hiring someone now. I'm just wondering if our general policy is not to hire and budget staff in mid-year, we should budget something now for hiring someone in mid-year. That's
Totally support, and I just want to get on a soapbox praising the department, because I turned 65 this year and suddenly it's like I'm there a lot. And the department does more things than I had any idea. They do them to an incredible degree, and I really want to give a shout out to Alicia. I only have insurance because she straightened out some god awful messes that happened. So anything they want, give it to them.
I got like 7 more years. So.
Just before you move on, back when you were talking about the overall budget, could you say roughly what the Friends contribute?
So recently the Friends contributed $50,000 to the new building gift fund. They also contributed $850 to our monthly breakfast gift fund. We use that to purchase food that we use to cook breakfast 3 times a month. And I am sure I'm forgetting something.
The van.
Oh, $21,000 towards the new van as well.
So the 50,000 for the new building gift fund, what's that going to be used for?
So it was for naming rights of the multi-purpose room. And so it's in the gift fund now. And I think I haven't fully decided, but we're looking at potentially using part of that for the gym fitness equipment, the coffee service station, incidentals for the new building.
I was hoping you were going to say a part-time staff person until.
You retired?
You
retired?
No.
I don't know if it's best practice to fund a staff person on gift funds.
Well, if we were to say, yes, we approve it, but we don't have the money this year. That type of thing. Because remember, if we add a staff person here, we need to cut something from somewhere else. So it's on my list as a potential add, but we need potential cuts too. Sorry.
Okay. I have no capital requests for this current fiscal year because we are having our dream building built right across the street. Looking further down the road, far out as we can go, FY30, perhaps we might need to replace our 2017 wheelchair van, approximately costing $120,000. I would plan to, again, offset this cost, hopefully 100%, 80% with the MassDOT Community Transit Grant Program. I triple checked with them. There's no limit on the amount of times you can apply for that. So I would expect to go back a 3rd time for an FY30 request. So again, going back to the future operating needs, these are a couple of the things that I am predicting we might need. New centers that open see a 30 to 40% increase in their patronage. There are plans to expand our meal program. Now, does that include adding a position for a nutrition coordinator part-time. Is there grant funding for that? I don't fully know yet, but that I just wanted to put that on the radar. Many senior centers that have a great kitchen also have nutrition coordinator, a cook. Right now, we're filling that position with senior tax workers. But if we wanted to establish a program, a full program, we would need a staff person. Most of the other departments in town hall have an office coordinator. We don't have an office coordinator. Currently, we have an administrative assistant part-time. So looking to the future, a potential new position would be an office coordinator, which is a grade 9. That's the approximate cost for step 1 through 3. If we were to add that position. I expect our meal site food costs to increase. I think we can offset this with a revolving account if we are charging a minimal fee for a food program, a meals program. Did this at a previous senior center where we ran it almost like a cafe or a restaurant. We were able to become self-sustaining within about 3 years. So I just wanted to put this on the radar, but my plan would be to have it be a self-sustaining food program. And just to squeak in at the end, it would be great if the town could cover the Crosstown Connect fee 100%. And I didn't have to dip into the grant funds, which I use for programming, to pay for 1/3 of our van dispatching service.
So just for clarification, you're asking for an office coordinator and maintaining your administrative assistant. You're not converting.
So these are potentials. We currently.
Yeah, I understand
We
that,
have,
but you wouldn't plan on going from one part-time to transitioning that to full-time. You'd keep the part-time and add a full-time.
Mhm.
Okay.
So in summary, we have a lean budget. Any increases we had were offset by a 7,500 decrease. Our operating budget is supplemented by grants. I always like to just point out that our senior tax workout program gives value back to the town. We're not just taking. And our future operating budget with the new building, we know our operations are going to, our expenses will increase. But I think we will be back in FY27 with some asks.
Appreciate the heads up.
Hmm?
Appreciate the heads up.
I applaud your fiscal conservancy. I'm concerned that you're going to go into the building in May and become overwhelmed and need more staff before we can react.
I also had that concern, and I still do have that concern. I talked with Jerry about it at length in our meeting. We do have a very robust set of volunteers and senior tax workers who are on a rotating schedule with us right now that really help us stay afloat. I would lean heavily on those people who know what we do, know our operations, and can kind of bridge this gap for us in the meantime. I just didn't want to commit to something and then decide it's not an office coordinator I need, it's a outreach coordinator. It's a, yeah.
Okay.
Sure. You said that you expect an increased use of the services with the new building of a certain amount. I know that's a guess, but what was the number you said?
It's 30 to 40%. So the database that we use to track all our statistics is called My Senior Center, and most senior centers in Massachusetts use this. They put out a poll for anyone who's opened a new building within the last 10 years. The directors completed the poll. They pulled the statistics that have been entered into the database and determined that it was actually a 30 to 40% increase after opening a new building.
So I would say our department that's going to have 30 to 40% increase in utilization probably needs some help.
I'm going back. I know when we opened the library, they had the same 30 to 40%. They handled it, but with how they allocated staff. But they had a lot more staff and they asked for more hours very shortly thereafter. We were opening on a different point in the fiscal year than you are. You're going to be opening basically right before the fiscal year. So if you have to wait too long, that's my concern, that you don't have, then you're not going to be nimble enough to react without something. So
And without tossing politics into it unnecessarily, it's entirely possible that federal support for elder services, I mean, could get severely whacked, which is only going to exacerbate the problem. So I think this is an expense that we should fully anticipate and do.
I,
thank you.
yeah. If the directive was to keep a level funded budget, and that's what I tried to do with this. I appreciate your support and advocacy for additional positions, and I will take anything you would like to give.
And I'm not suggesting which position you hire. I'm just suggesting that you're going to need more budget. Right? And how you allocate that is entirely up to what your department needs, but I have a hard time believing you're going to I hope you're not underwater mentally come July.
Maybe you can make a recommendation where we can make cuts so that we can hire somebody.
You can have Chuck's salary. Matthew already gave it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, good evening. My name is Maureen Tuco. I'm town planner for the town of Littleton. Very nice to be here again with you this evening. Planning department has 3 full-time staff now, town planner, assistant town planner, and planning department assistant. Major goals, major accomplishments for this last year included some very successful grant work, including just a very recent announcement of another $1 million infrastructure grant that will be focused on the 550 King Street Commons development. Planning board is working on several zoning bylaw amendments. We have passed the MBTA community zoning bylaw and we remain in interim compliance with those requirements, which means that we'll be able to spend the grant funds that have been awarded. The planning board is interested in moving forward with further reducing the number of potential marijuana cultivation facilities in town. FEMA has adopted new floodplain maps, so the planning board is looking at the town needs to update our floodplain bylaw so we can match the FEMA requirements, and that will allow any residents that have floodplain insurance to remain in the floodplain insurance program. And the state has updated the regulations on accessory dwelling units or ADUs. And Littleton, over the next probably year or so, we should update our ADU bylaw to match the state requirements. Planning studies that are underway or just recently completed. Underway is the current hazard mitigation plan. Our zoning diagnostic, pushed that off a little bit because a couple other things came forward that were more important. We're looking at updating the Littleton Common Revitalization Roadmap. That was the 2019 report and planning study that led to the new Village Common zoning district, our form-based code. Of course, that was issued in 2019. A lot has changed in the landscape of the Littleton Common since that time. Permitting going forward. We have, Northern Bank is under construction, and so that permitting has been completed. King Street Commons, the master plan for development of the site has been approved, and we anticipate getting this detailed site plan for phase one sometime over the next several months. So we'll continue with the permitting. Department goals for next year, I've covered some of these already. Nothing in particular. I'll let you read those for yourself, I guess, would be a better way to put that. No capital requests for next fiscal year. The next big capital ask will likely be to update the master plan, but until we get through implementing some of the growth that we expect to see in Littleton Common, it's hard to ask what we want to see next before we realize some of the growth that we will be seeing at the King Street Common. So the planning department budget request was supported and is the same as the TA's capital budget request, so there was no difference. 5-year capital plan, again, we haven't come up with any projected asks except for a master plan, start to fund that a few years out. So let's see what's changing this year in expenses. We've increased the expenses for the legal ads to reflect, to better reflect what we've been spending on the legal ads that are required for zoning bylaw amendments. And we have the new ask of professional services, and that would be to support some of our grantsmanship work, either for consultants to help with writing the grants or as a local match, if local match is required for grants. And the next slide is just that we agreed with the town administrator's office on the budget proposal for projected operational needs for the next several years. Current staffing level is working very well for us. Actually, I misspoke. The planning administrator is 32 hours a week, not 40 hours a week. So, and then we'll continue with working closely with the local building inspector. I gave the one example of making sure that we both understand how to best use the form-based code that's in the Village Common and the King Street Common district. So that was the brief presentation. Hope I left plenty of time for questions that you may have.
So I had a question on the professional services. You said you wanted to basically help with consultants and things. If you look at the budget, it goes 0, 20, 0, 20. Are we expecting it to, the 20, you're asking for 25 this year. Are we expecting that number to be reasonable and that the number you're going to ask for going forward? Or are we, how do we come up with 25? We went from 0 to, full throttle effectively here.
Right. So we've been able to cover some. I'd like to be able to keep it at a specific number and keep it level. We've been able to cover the costs of a lot of planning studies, a lot of planning work with grants. The most recent about approximately $20,000 that we spent was the first time the MBTA communities was not successful at town meeting, needed to hire a consultant, and that was done through a reserve fund transfer. And so we used that funding for the consultant that got us to the approval for the MBTA communities. So like I said, I would love to be at a number that we could keep level, and so we can expect that that's what it would be.
But it sounds like if we don't give you anything, it encourages you to go for more grants.
I don't think it would adversely impact to have some money up front.
Gemini, don't we have money in the PA's budget for like matching funds and things like
We
that?
do. We have
Yeah.
some, we've got this current fiscal year one coming up being proposed. It's $5,000.
5,000.
Yeah, but I did tap that resource for the hazard mitigation plan and for some
right.
MAPC work as well.
That was quick.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Evening, everybody. Okay, so, I'm Henry Fontaine, the building commissioner here for the town of Littleton. So our major accomplishments, for 2024. The maintain quality service and community for the contractors and businesses. Certificates of inspection, the annual building inspections, we completed all of those. I was a new hire in October, so thank you to the select board members here. So some of the information, I don't have all the complete information for the whole year. I can only give it to you for the last quarter. Our department goals for 2026 is we want to work collaboratively with the land use group. The department established goals that all the work, we all work together and try to figure out what's going to be good for all of us. We're hoping to start next week, weekly and bi-weekly meetings, weekly or bi-weekly meetings, so that we can sit down and just talk to each other and see what we can do to keep everything going well. We're working on updating the building department website, creating spreadsheets for the for permitting and annual inspections, so we have a record of what's being done, when it's done, so we're able to give ample time for the inspections. And then the building code just changed in 2021. The international code and the Massachusetts building code just changed. So we're going through a new change here in January. So we're going to have to educate the homeowners and the contractors as we learn it ourselves. So it's not too many changes, but it's enough so that we have to make everybody aware of it. Our goals for 2026 is continue to attend planning board and zoning board appeals meetings. I like to stay up to date with that, so I do attend those meetings. I think it's important to know what's going on in town. And for the time being, we're looking to relocate the building land use department to the second floor. We create some new office spaces and workstations up in some conference areas. FY26 department capital budget requests. So the building department and facilities, we're looking to replace our vehicles. There was a grant requested that has been submitted to the green communities for 2 electric pickup trucks. We're not sure if the grant's going to be enough money for us. So if it doesn't, then the building department will be looking to do something later on for capital. The Explorers that we have, the vehicles that we have, are in real tough shape, but they're getting us around right now. We're able to use them. We have small budget to repair them if we need to, but at least for the time being, I think we have at least one running right now. So that should at least keep us going with that.
So, when we originally bought the Lightning, it was supposed to be shared. There's no talk of sharing it when the parking rec's not used. I mean, it's
Not when it's lettered Littleton Parks and Rec all over it. No.
That was the whole purpose we bought it, was to be shared between. We can put a magnet on that, can't we?
What's that?
Can we buy a magnet and put it over the Littleton Parks and Rec? I'd rather re-letter it than buy a brand new truck because their lettering's all over it. That was the intention. That's what we approved.
I don't know what happened in the transition.
Right, the ship.
And as Henry pointed out too, we're looking for potentially some other vehicles, electric vehicles that to be funded through the Green Communities Grant. I don't, we should be hearing back from them relatively soon in terms of where that is.
Within
And then-
45 days or so.
Right, right. And then I think Henry's segueing into his next slide, which is to get some other options if that doesn't pan out.
So, FY 26 through 30, we're requesting to replace the building department vehicle at that point with, if the grant doesn't go through for us. And in FY 30, looking to bring on an assistant building inspector, assistant zone enforcement officer.
So if the grants don't come through, you're not actually asking for money this year. If the grants don't come through, you'll be asking for money next year
FY 27, yeah.
or reapplying or.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions?
If I may, you mentioned moving folks to the second floor. Can you just expand on that a little bit?
We're kind of crammed downstairs. There's a bunch of departments there now, conservation, land, planning, board of health. Board of health's gonna have to expand their office. They need a nurse and a nurse's office to do things.
Henry, that was something that I have proposed to the team downstairs to get more up on the second floor, more of a better flow, a better working relationship with each other. I understand they're on the ground floor, but there'd be more conducive things going on that would benefit everybody. But as Henry was saying, you have people having HIPAA calls in their car because there's no privacy, there's no confidentiality. So we would like to, recognizing with the new space that Parks and Rec is going to be moving out, to transition everybody up there onto the second floor and identifying space. And Eric has already, working with Henry, has already identified and done a layout and given privacy to areas with existing petitions that will go floor to ceiling. And it would also give an opportunity for larger spaces for permit reviews, plans, and things of that nature, for correct office space for Maren and for Henry and in the operations.
That was the whole purpose. We moved down to the first floor. It's just, it seems like rehashing pickup truck, and this is no reflection on you, but you said you came in October. But there was a very concerted effort to put building use on the first floor, which is more conducive to contractors coming in off the, with dirty boots and everything else coming into the building right off the parking lot. I just think, I mean, it's your rodeo, but we spent some money doing that, and I just hope it's a lot of
Is the
consideration
Cooper
goes
room-
into this.
Is the Cooper room being used?
I think it's got exercise equipment in it.
That's
We
it.
got a grant.
That's the gym.
Right.
Throw the exercise equipment upstairs and use the Cooper room. And you've got everything, you could put the health department in the Cooper room. It'd be private, it'd be separate. You'd have everything there. You wouldn't
Except
have
the
to go
Cooper
through-
room is not subdivided, so you don't have a nurse's office. I assume that I know there are existing partitions in the first floor of the library. So we probably shouldn't second guess
Whatever.
Eric, who made the plan. We can ask him, but let's give him the benefit of the doubt that he's thinking about it ahead of time.
Yeah, I mean, that I don't.
Just hate to-
It also could be that it could be the expansion of the health department is bigger than, Ed had considered when he asked for that space, and they need more space.
When
than they have right now.
remember too, when that space was configured, we didn't even have.
Sure.
Yeah, we were using the shelf at
that's
the
true, yeah.
time, so that's why.
Yeah.
That's partially. So
It was in the works,
The plan was to have the health department down there.
right.
but it still maybe it's It wasn't.
Yeah, I mean,
We didn't look far enough down the road for that.
I'm not gonna micromanage it, but it is something that we need to, we tend to bang, bang, stop or else shoot, needs to be fully vetted and take a look at the whole thing and figure out what is the best way to do it. And maybe look at some of the history and, talk to some of the folks that were involved when it happened to Myron, you were around as well. Just to make sure that we're not redoubling our efforts and then spend the money all over again trying to do renovations. And my understanding was Park and Rec wanted to try to still use some of that space for some programming. So, I mean, that's just all that coordination. And they'll be able to, for the daycare, they'll be able to take the space that's going to be vacated. They'll be able to use that whole area for their daycare operation.
First floor.
On the first floor. Thank you. Okay.
Any other questions?
Seems like we're renovating stuff and then we're repurposing it all over again. It's just fun. It's frustrating. Is there a budget involved with that, with the renovations? There's minimal budget, but a lot of it's going to be done through the effort with facilities.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a great
you.
day.
Okay, I'm going to play the role of the much less glamorous Nancy Glencross as I bring you through our information systems budget. This is page 136. So, major accomplishments for information technologies in 2024. First piece was the Munis upgrade. Munis is the major expense for us. It is our primary accounting software. It's provided more functionality for us over the years, so we've appreciated that, but it also means that we need to upgrade it on a regular basis. Last upgrade, major upgrade that we had, that means shutting people out of the system and planning months ahead of time, was in July. Next piece was the newsletter publication. Nancy's been working a lot with that and taking in updates from department heads throughout the town. That started in June of 24. We're maintaining our ongoing security awareness training. Just recently, this is through a program called KnowBe4. Some of you may be using it. We actually just got another update on that, where the expectation is for all town staff to be doing a 15-minute little class, and those updates provided to us on a regular basis as well, and push through the software. One of the major changes that we've had as we're moving toward a more cloud-based system is that we decommissioned the remaining hardware that was shared with LALWD. So now we are completely separated from LALWD, which provides protection to both the town and LALWD should there be any challenges against our respective systems. Next piece is the full implementation of the multi-factor authentication. So when staff, or self in this case, if I want to log on to my system, the authenticator comes up, we enter in a code, and that's how we now access our system. Staff have sometimes complained about when they step away from their computer and it goes into closing mode and having to relog on again. So there is some inconvenience, but compared to what the implications of us having any sort of cyber attack, it's time well spent as far as we're concerned. The IT office also assisted with the implementation of electronic voting, which you, as you all know, began at the last annual town meeting. Second phase was at the special, continue on with that. And Nancy has also been active with weekly meetings with architects, the owner's project manager, and vendors for the center on Shattuck Street and 36 King Street. So she's an active part of that effort as well. So goals for fiscal year 2026 will be for 36 King Street, the installation of the IT room, fiber, door and camera security. Security has been part of that program as well. So she's been heavily involved with that. including all of the other pieces that are associated with basically outfitting a new building. Pretty much same sort of things on the center on Shattuck Street, installation of the IT room, fiber, camera security, etc. Another goals that Nancy has for next year is updating maps and the online GIS with additional layers. So she's hoping for adding in zoning overlay districts and water floodplains on the GIS. So those of you who use it, GIS is a really helpful tool both for employees, town employees, and the residents who use it. It's a great system that we have, and that's very helpful. Last is for view permit. This is what Henry uses to manage his permitting system and looking to integrate planning and zoning permits into that. So putting even more functionality on the existing system moving forward. There's no capital requests, as we mentioned earlier, with the change to cloud-based solutions. The need for physical on-premise equipment is greatly reduced. So it used to be you'd see, you'd need new servers and regularly have to update that. So there'd be a regular part of the capital budget. Now we're really focusing more on just routine PC replacements, which are just part of our operational budget. 2 employees, 2 full-time FTEs, which is our IT manager and IT technician, and expenses this year are level funded. So moving forward, the 5-year look forward on the operating needs, with additional staff comes with additional IT expenses for software and security licenses. So that's obviously something that we're going to be keeping an eye on. Additional buildings. We have 2 new facilities we're going to be bringing on in the near future with 36 King Street and with the center on Shattuck Street. And of course, then maintaining that's going to add some more expenses to us as well. And of course, the annual increases in maintenance, support, and licenses. So that is pretty much it. Any other questions for the IT budget? We get a lot of service and I think we get great value through our 2 employees. We are, they work very hard to not only maintain the town hall going, but all of the other facilities, especially police and fire, dispatch. There's a lot of work down there as well. So we're very well served by these 2, and we're fortunate to have the team that we have in place.
And they were recognized at MMA.
And they were recognized at MMA. Yes, for website of the year. Yes.
Great. Thank you. The town administrator's office seems to be for the major accomplishments in the count for 24. The common theme, as you can see, so many of the team members are a part of this Center on Shattuck Street project. That's on schedule, substantial completion, and looking for that moving in March. Another common theme has been the 36 King Street construction for the substantial completion in May. It's potentially going to be pushed out towards the end of June because of some issues. So that's still up in the air.
Quick question on 36 King Street.
Yes, sir.
I keep hearing we find every time we turn around, we find something else that needs to be fixed.
Yep.
And if we're staying close to budget.
Yep.
What aren't we doing, or are we going to end up with a building that is not really what we want because we've had to fix $500,000 worth of stuff? What's your take on that?
Fred, I'd say just the opposite. Actually, we've been in there with the weekly meetings, with bringing Parks and Rec into those meetings as well as the schools, trying to hear what they need and making sure that as we come across the things that they're looking at, and what they believe that they want to see. We've been trying to be very sensitive to that, but also at the same time be sensitive to the budget as well in terms of what that is. Our next focus is HVAC and there's a larger system in the attic that we're looking at what our options would be to do something that's a little bit more environmentally friendly than what's currently there. And seeing what our options and our alternatives are at that point. So I think by bringing both parties to the table for this exercise, as we've gone through and, seen things that, it's like with any renovation that you do, you open a wall and say, gee, I don't know what that person was thinking there. We've certainly knocked into some of that. And it's a very interesting exercise or lesson to learn in terms of comparing the center and Shattuck Street, a brand new building that you're doing from scratch, seeing how that goes versus looking at, working with the building that at one point, as I understand, used to be a hay barn. So you do see some of the interesting things that come up, with that. But, we're feeling good about where we're at. There's going to be a few more. PMBC has been keeping on top of things, and we feel good about where we're at, and again, hopefully for a May, June timeframe. So that's what we're looking at, and things look good right now.
Okay, thank you. Is it safe to say that there may be things that we're looking at replacing in 5 years or 10 years that we didn't originally anticipate?
It could be. It could be that that unlike Shattuck Street, where everything is brand new, there are some things that we've upgraded, other things that we're trying to maintain. It seems somewhat odd because the last renovation there was 1991, and you think, oh, well, it's relatively new, but it's actually a pretty long time ago. It's like what we say about the high school. Steve Mark used to quote all the time, well, the high school's brand new, people think, but really you're starting to get in that 23-year window where you're looking at the replacement of new roofs and looking at, new boilers to replace what's there. So I would not be surprised that once we start getting into the building and starting to see what those needs are, that there might be some other issues that we'll have to look at. So we aren't going in and believing that everything is pristine. We know that we're going in with our eyes open.
So will we see that in next year's capital 5-year plan?
I think it's something we would have that Eric and I are going to have to be looking at and assessing and seeing once we're in the building, just, similar to what Liz was saying, similar to what that is, seeing what those systems are and figuring out what those needs are. Our hope is that, we've got more time than others, but then more time than not. But at the same time, I can't tell you that when you get in and, we're starting there and there are going to be things that could come up because it is, it's essentially two buildings that were put together at different times, and it's, we're doing the best we can with it, and we've got a good team that's looking at these issues, but certainly I don't want to give you any guarantee about what that.
At the end of the day, it's a third the price of new construction for a municipality. So if we need to do some maintenance going forward, we can figure that out. Okay.
Getting back, successfully launched the monthly town newsletter, which has been we've been really it's gotten better and better. It seems like every edition there's and getting back to what Ryan was talking about, Nancy does a fantastic job at it with encouraging stories to come in and being very, very creative, different facts and figures that she puts in there and data points. And for 2 years running, so we've received recognition from MMA annual one for our town report last year, and then this year, as mentioned just a few minutes ago, the website winner for 25. And then lastly, successfully managed the May and the May annual town meeting and the October special town meeting.
With no fist fights.
Not many.
Are you saying that because you saw MMA? I mean, that's from my
Department goals for the 26th. We participate the ongoing MSBA Vashaken Lane Elementary School, support the ongoing town sewer project, construction project, provide support for the to be established charter committee, and coordinating the needs and staying on top with the redevelopment of 550 King Street and 410 Great Road. One thing that we want to put in there also is I have the office is going to be more aggressive with doing business visitation. We've actually divided the town into different sections. All the businesses are listed in every single section. And as I go out there, I will be able to check them off. So by this time next year, all the businesses over the course of this, between the spring, the summer, and the early fall, all the businesses will be visited. In
You can
terms of
invite them onto the podcast.
what's that?
Get them 5 minutes each on the podcast.
There you go. It's a great idea. No capital budget requests at this time. Not a capital plan, not applicable. And in terms of our the financials, for personnel services, we're at a 2% increase from this past year, or $9,660, and for expenses remains unchanged, and that was level funded from last year, same amount. What we're projected for 5 years with operating needs, with the potential, with the change in governance, as there absolutely would be some investments that would have to be done through the administration and other areas of town operations also. The change from to a town manager form of government.
Excuse me, Jim, I guess the select board, is this going to be part of the charge of the committee to quantify what this?
You mean financially?
Yeah.
We haven't really discussed that at this point. It's very early.
It's my experience it's not the financial impact. I think it's really looked upon as the operations, the governance and the operations of delivering the services, and the financial stuff it's up to the municipality at that point in terms of between the select board and the administration and the finance committee on sustainable investments and the timing of those.
So where do we stand on that? With that charter committee?
We have, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
We have, tomorrow is the application deadline for submission to be on the committee. Right now, we have 12 people that have expressed interest, and the select board is going to be meeting on Monday evening to conduct open interviews for all of those individuals, and then there will be selected between 7 to 9 members, not to exceed 9.
And presumably there will be a schedule of public discussions about all of this.
Yes.
Just because.
We have a community compact grant that the Collins Center is shepherding the process, and they are helping us steer the project. And with that was one of the main things when Ryan and I originally approached them about this, after the Department of Revenue did their study and did an evaluation and made the recommendation it should be a town manager form of government. That key to that is being very transparent and having multiple opportunities for public input throughout the process. This is going to be a long process. It's going to be a marathon. It's not a quick thing. It's going to be anywhere from 18 to potentially 24 months. And through that process, there will be different stages that the committee will identify as, okay, this is where we are, time for public input. Then they would go for another stretch of time and replicate that same thing.
Okay. And yeah, I'm just a little touchy. I want it to be a heck of a lot more transparent than the Shaker design project was, because I'm still annoyed at how that was done. So, I don't want to have another Wednesday meeting where we're told it's getting submitted on Friday and this is it, and it's too late to do anything.
Nope.
And it sounds like it's not, so thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Town council.
Oh, thank you. Okay, now we have town council. Town council remains unchanged for FY 25. And they do all the legal, obviously the needs and support for the boards and committees and labor law representation. So that remains unchanged from last year.
Do they send us hours?
Yes.
They do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have we ever done the math to see whether
Yes.
we're in the right ballpark for the retainer?
Yes,
Okay, that's all I need to know.
those two people over there.
Thank you. Sounds like a fun job.
Eric, want to go on?
Folks. So, the major accomplishments this year for the facilities department, obviously, I was hired and, on August 3rd. Thank you all.
That's a strong start, right there. Okay, good, good.
I threw the mic drop right about there. Right.
It's been awesome, really. It's a great place to work, and I want to, thank everyone, and I really appreciate it. So, I've been getting to know a lot of people in town, got to learn the buildings, started to develop relationship with the different departments around town that I'll be working with. I've been attending the owner project manager meetings, and the permanent municipal building committee meetings for 36 King Street and the Center on Shattuck Street every Wednesday and every other Wednesday night to, provide input or things that have changed, just sort of keep everyone informed and, provide input from the town side on my opinion on things. And of course, 36 King Street, there's been some latent conditions that were unforeseen, and we've had to come up with some projects or come up with some solutions there. We've completed repairs to preserve and clean out the Nagog Orchard and put it up for a potential lease. In fiscal year 2026, I plan on fully implementing Maintain X software to allow our staff, me and George, to basically document and keep track of all our work on a application and computer platform that we can send out either a QR code or a link to anybody in any of the departments that we work with. They can put in a work order, say they have a light out, they have a heat issue, they have, whatever. That will get submitted in, and I can review it, submit it to George. We can update whoever put in the ticket, and then we can keep track of what we've done, and we can also keep track of all the assets. So that's part of what I'm setting up now, is each asset. So like fire department, police department, all those assets and all the equipment that's there is all in the app. So if I have an HVAC guy go there, I know all the size filters, I know all the equipment, I know modern serial numbers, everything for all my buildings. So that's going to be one of the huge things I'm going to implement. I'm going to try and convert as many buildings that are not LED to LED as possible. I'm already in the process of converting the police department to LED. That project is in process right now, and will hopefully be quickly seeing a return on investment, hopefully within this year. It's a pretty inexpensive project to do and change everything to LED, and we won't have to be over there every week changing light bulbs, buying light bulbs, disposing of mercury light bulbs, etc.
If we can just talk about the software for one more second.
Sure.
A vital detail data point that will come out from that is they're gonna, from the time the ticket comes in to the time it's assigned to the time it's completed. So we'll be able to track in real time what that did, and Eric will be able to be able to identify if there's areas of improvement that need to be done and what could have delayed it. Whether there was no part over at Hobbichon Hardware or something to that effect. So it, for future budget reasons, it will also be very, very helpful. Thank you.
It's also gonna be helpful for, like Jim said, also parts tracking, so I can make sure I have essential boiler parts in the winter. Make sure we have essential air conditioning parts in the summer. Just things like that. Reminders to snake drains, to pump tight tanks at the fire and police station, all that kind of stuff. So it's just gonna be a tremendous help. And so converting buildings to LED, and then hopefully in 2026, we'll be moving land use in the first floor departments to the second floor or 550 King Street. We're not sure yet, but that would be a nice improvement. Get some more space and some offices, some confidentiality for some of the departments that need that. And Henry and I will be working with those departments to make sure that their needs are met.
So before we move on the maintenance and the software, like I know this building has its own software system for controlling the HVAC. Are you trying to unify that software too and take that under more of an info control rather than having to go into each department or the back room of each building to log in and?
Yeah, so I'm not sure yet how that's gonna work. I believe the commissioning for the COA is in a couple of weeks, and I'm gonna learn probably more than I need to know about the building.
Record it.
And hopefully gonna try and integrate that type of system. We're also trying to integrate all the cleaning products and integrate all the try and use less paper towels, more concentrated cleaning, stuff like that, that I didn't mention in here also.
No, I was just trying to make it so that you didn't have to learn 4 different software systems for 4 different buildings on how to control them.
Yeah.
If there's any way we're trying to integrate any of that or centralize it so that you, like, I think you can log on to this one remotely, but I don't know if you can on the police and the fire, or if there's a way of like bringing that all under one umbrella.
Yeah, this app seems like it would have the capability to do that, so I can definitely look into that. And that sounds like a great idea. So moving on to the budget, I guess it was my first time going through it, so it was a good exercise for Ryan and I to go through, look through some things that had kind of been, could have been shuffled around, had been overlooked maybe in the past, and we were able to shuffle things around and not make any significant changes to the operations for facilities budget. We were able to make educated guesses as far as what we might expect for utilities at 36 King Street. And we extrapolated the energy use data from the library and tried to get a pretty good number for the COA or COS building. To budget for that based on the library's utility usage. And there's no TA budget requests. 26 to 35-year plan. We're in the process of attempting to receive grant money from Green Communities for several different things, one of which is an F-150 Lightning, but it's not expected to be that much. One thing that isn't in here is I'm working with Green Communities to potentially increase the insulation of the exterior envelope at 36 King Street to help with some of the energy costs there as well. If this doesn't happen, we'd be looking potentially to purchase a gas pickup truck with a snowplow in FY27.
So can I just add one thing too? Because one of the questions Fred asked was like, so with the presumption that Eric was here, then, okay, well, what else will we need to look at in terms of other capital needs? And, it's something that we talked about and thinking about our buildings. And one of the first things that came up was the changing over to LED lights at the police station and figuring out, how we could do that at one fell swoop, but do it within our existing budget. We also looked at what our other, our other needs were. And, I think that this is, as Eric gets more and more into the facilities, we may see more in the upcoming years. But for this cycle, we really did try to think through what we have, as well as looking at town hall and knowing that that's not going to be something that we're going to be likely our home over the long term, what kind of investments we make there. So we did give a lot of thought to that. And this is probably more of a comma in the sentence than a period. So we know we'll be seeing more of that over the upcoming fiscal years. But and again, especially too, as Eric gets to see and see more, especially in these older buildings, we'll probably have more on the list. But it is something we considered for this cycle.
Is there a possibility to ask the light department for help in switching some of these fixtures over to LED?
That's what Conrad does.
Right. So in this instance, we were able to do most of this with it basically under, I think, what was it, under $8,000 with it. So it was a really straightforward exercise in taking the ballasts out and changing that out too. So it was a relatively,
Yeah, this was a good project because we're actually keeping the existing fixtures and we're just eliminating the ballast and wiring in an LED 4-foot or 2-foot bulb, depending on what size it is. And like Ryan said, it's just a pretty straightforward project. So
but it'll provide us some savings over the long term.
Yeah.
And as well as it means that the police department isn't looking up at the ceiling and seeing, 4 different colors of light.
Exactly.
That made it look like a disco.
Eric, to Steve's point, our light department does this. They do it for municipal buildings. They do it for commercial buildings.
Yep.
So I would make sure that relationship with Connor, especially for
Okay.
you, is done because maybe you could have done it for nothing.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Yeah.
So
I've been
that's
working
something
with,
that we should be as a group
Yep.
here. We should be
so
educating you on that and letting you know that you might not have done that yourself.
I have been working with Diane Dickerson and the light department on some of this, but
Okay.
I will reach out to Connor and see what I can do.
Yeah, very easy to get a hold of.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's your guy.
Thank you.
You bet.
So I had one operational, one capital request. Question. I know the library ends up borrowing the lift from the school quite a bit. Is that something that your department's going to end up needing, or are we just going to keep moving it back and one lift in town is enough, or are we going to need another one?
At this point, because we have such a good, we have a good working relationship with the
I think we
school.
have two. We actually got donated another one, so there is one at the library currently now that we're going to utilize to fix that cage door. Hopefully tomorrow.
Okay. My other question is, in last year's budget, the police actually requested a facilities guy, like 10 hours. That I thought we were going to move under the facilities department. So I didn't know if that was funded or not asked for. Or
Yeah,
what
it's
happened.
still funded. It's still in the police budget. Most of the focus that he's had, because the police have the 24/7 operation, really has been primarily, for that use. I think they've been doing it. It's interesting when you start bringing in prisoners. Eric had to deal with a situation where a overnight guest happened to take out a sprinkler head,
Broken.
and
Unbreakable sprinkler
right.
head, but I guess if you have enough time and
unbreakable is a relative term. So it's so I think that based on that type of demand, it's actually been a good fit for what their more immediate needs are. It's actually probably helped provide more relief to what what Eric's had to deal with, especially maybe with the exception of the unbreakable sprinkler head.
well, and it's also freed up George a lot for me because he used to do the jail cell cleaning over there all the time. So he would be gone for whenever they had a prisoner, they would have to clean the cells out, and he would also do a weekly cleaning of the cells as well. So now that's been taken off of his plate. He can do more, town.
Yeah, I just thought when we voted it last year, we decided it should be moved under the facilities budget so that we could reallocate the person as we needed. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's And if it, yeah, I mean, it's something we can do, but it also has been working very well for us.
Yeah, it's another police budget, and if he's benefiting from it, I wouldn't, if it ain't broke. Jump in. You brought up the second floor, so I'm bringing it up again. You also mentioned the possibility of 550 King Street. 550 King Street is so. I have a tough time renovating this building to do anything with it if we're looking at an alternative building. I'm having a tough time swallowing that pill. Well, absolutely. It's all a matter of timing.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to be real aggressive on the approach of identifying town hall as senior affordable housing and making that a priority for what the vision was a couple of years ago, then we would have to relocate. Then we would rethink about moving up to the second floor. Obviously, we're not going to move up there just to be moving out. But if it's not going to be an aggressive approach, if it's going to be if identifying that as senior affordable housing isn't until maybe phase 3 or 4 of that multiple phase project of what 550 King Street, then we would move up there. We would move up because the people have expanded now since we've got a facilities person, we've got a board of health person that's expanding. I'm not sure that there was an assistant Concom agent at the time.
No.
You need a nurse.
Right, and then so the Board of Health is so that area was good when it was originally went down. So I understand that, but it sounds like Board of Health needs to move. No, all because you're dealing with. We'll have a conversation offline. I don't agree that all of it needs to move, but we can have a conversation of that offline.
So just to go further on what Chuck's saying, I think we need to determine a plan for that building before we spend any money in that building. So if we, like, when the school and department and COA moves out, what does it mean are we mothballing part of that building, and what does that mean? Or do we take the advantage of the old Park and Rec offices that are already set up with 4 offices and move some people over there and mothball sections of the building? And how any of that works, we need the logistics of that, and the plan for that should be determined. Whether we're moving out, in 6 months or 5 years, we should kind of figure out what that plan is.
We do have a couple plans written up.
It's an ongoing conversation that we're having, that we want to make sure that we're confident in the direction we're going to recommend beforehand. And part of that plan is definitely mothballing a portion of that and turning off the utilities if that's even possible, and in certain sections of that of the building. So
we're planning for both is the answer. Then we'll see. We'll make a decision.
And it would be good to know what it means, how and what we can mothball. I mean, do we mothball by sections? Do we mothball by floor?
Yeah.
And so on and so forth, and what advantages we get and disadvantages and so on and so forth. So.
Okay.
Another question on Mayor. You mentioned 2027, looking at the potential if the lightning thing doesn't work out with green communities, the possibility of getting a combustion engine truck with a plow on it. This is not, you don't have to answer right now, but just want to keep in mind, we've been sold by the police department and by the fire department that they needed a plow. They needed a plow for their own parking lots.
Yeah.
And so we've spent between $50,000 and $70,000 to buy a truck with a plow on it for the police department and for the fire department.
Yeah.
So if you were to get a truck with a plow on it, would that eliminate the need for them to have plows? And obviously they already have them, so it would be a natural life, and then eventually they wouldn't need to replace those. I'm looking at that for down the road.
Okay.
I don't know, put you in that spot, but I'd like you to start considering that. And so we can plan.
Yeah, we can have offline discussion about that. There's several factors involved with the winter and electric vehicles and needing a garage space or having it plugged in all the time, etc. So, but I don't know. The answer is I don't know.
Yeah, it was kind of
the answer is how many departments need a plow.
That's just it. Even how many departments need a pickup truck, and from the pickup truck, well, let's put a plow on it so we can plow. Well,
we've got like departments that actually plow.
I'm gonna opine that the highway department needs it filed. At least
Bold
one.
stance, bold stance.
At least one.
Going out there, Matthew.
I know. I'm a wrecker.
It just, we keep buying these things and.
Yeah.
Each year we needed to do the parking lot, but we also needed to get in front of the ambulance, that we had to have that special kind of an ambulance, because if it snows out, that ambulance can get up the driveway. Well, then the next year they need a plow truck, but they need to put that plow truck in front of the ambulance that was supposedly able to get up those driveways. That's why I bought the expensive ambulance. So
They also have Bobcat too, so I don't know why they need a plow truck.
anyway, yeah, you in the middle of that one.
All right.
Point taken.
On the operating budget, Aaron.
Yep. So the operating budget, there were no adjustments there either. And for the projected operating needs, we had none at this time. Like Ryan said, it's kind of a comma, not a period, but. Right?
Any other questions for Aaron?
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
No, thank you, folks.
I have one quick question. On the utility usage, is it closely tracking to what the 25 budget is? Do we know I haven't actually seen that.
For overall utilities?
Yeah,
So part of the reason we we were able to accommodate 36 King and the senior center is that what we were seeing was probably we were a little over budgeted in our utilities, and so we were able to reallocate some of that. That's why we weren't advocating for any changes. So I think overall, if anything, it'll probably be a little lower than where we've been. Well, for what the budget is. So it's a good thing that we can take advantage of in this instance.
Since we're talking utilities to some degree, I think I mentioned to you, it might have been off, I don't remember, but schools have a really good guy, Dave. I can't remember Dave's last name.
Yeah.
He's like the energy czar.
Okay.
And, all the,
Dave Ryan.
yes, that's it.
Oh, Dave Riley. Yeah.
He
Yeah. So he's-
configures all their,
yeah, so they
Already,
they can.
Yep.
The high schools at 80 degrees doesn't need to be at 80, you know what I mean? So we've saved a lot of money by employing Dave Riley.
Yeah.
So that's where I thought you were going with your question about the utilities and the different programs, the software packages and stuff like
We
that.
also considered that in part of the savings of the utilities.
Yeah.
Also, I can, buy parts that fail instead of like having a middleman and
Right.
controlling it from remote and stuff like that. So,
Yeah. So, we have realized some pretty significant savings by having that consultant do his magic. So,
I'll definitely be in touch with him.
yeah, good.
yeah, I was hoping your estimate on the senior center for the electricity usage is outrageously high. Since you have like 3 times as number of solar panels that are on this building, and it's 2/3 of or about half the size, a little over half the size. It shouldn't be the same electricity as this building.
I'm hoping it's not going to see a huge amount of use, but it might.
Yeah, well, find out.
We'll see.
Hopefully
Hopefully it's very sunny.
Yes, right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Great job, Eric. Nice job. All right, select board. Page 166. All righty, and we're up. Strategic goals, what we want to do is pursue reviewing the current local structure, the charter committee to be appointed on February 3rd. Develop a plan for utilization of the Nagog Hill Orchard, and that orchard lease negotiation is in progress now. Review and revise the format and substance of the select board's regulations and policies. The consultant is currently reviewing select board regulations and policies for consistency and redundancy. Partner with the Economic Development Committee and other town departments and boards to support the town sewer project development of the town common. Groundbreaking for Mass Works $4 million site work at 550 King Street is scheduled for March of this year. Additional $1 million, which was just recently secured through the state for phase 2 of the project. Develop an employee rewards and tuition reimbursement program. The HR department is supporting the new staff engagement committee, which has developed employee recognition and engagement opportunities. Tuition reimbursement program is to be developed. Establish a plan to pursue grant opportunities. We continue to pursue grant opportunities through the Green Communities Program, as overseen by Diane Dickinson in our office. Successfully obtained the 2 community compacts, grants to support the charter committee process, UMass Collins Center, and the Orchard with Metropolitan Area Planning Commission. Enhanced town-based communication resources, successfully implemented a monthly digital newsletter. And this just last month in January, the 2025 kicked off the inaugural town podcast with myself and Selectwoman Morrison. Operating budget, the only thing was the addition of the $4,500 for the person doing the administrative stuff that does the minutes. And that was inadvertently removed in the FY25 budget. And that's it.
You'll plan the stipends to come back.
Let's
step on that rail.
The professionals in his office take no position on that matter.
Smart. Why don't we create a little reserve or a stabilization fund, so if any of the select board members need babysitting or something that we could submit a receipt and get reimbursed.
The DoorDash fund?
There you go.
George, you know it all too well.
There you go.
So I'm speaking to.
I actually have a question about that, about the minutes. It made me think, are we including wages for minutes for the charter committee anywhere? Because we wanted to provide that service to them as well.
That's a good point. I think when the budget was developed, we didn't know where it was going.
Yeah.
I think it's a reasonable question. I know some committees take minutes on their own, so we didn't necessarily presume that, but
No, we actually made the statement that we were going to make sure that they had somebody that was skilled in doing the minutes.
Yeah.
So we made that clear.
Maybe tax work off.
Make sure.
yeah,
you know.
potentially. So I'll make a note and we can add that. So.
But yeah, trying to make.
And Steve's going to tell me, okay, now you're going to have to find places to
cut it
add the
from somewhere
budget.
else.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm about to come up with a solution.
Oh, okay. A solution.
You're gonna do
All right. Okay.
Steve, the minute master.
He's gonna give up his salary. If you look at the finance committee's budget, there was a $600 increase to our clerical line for our minutes. We've been doing mostly joint meetings with the select board and we hop on your minutes.
So that's the plan going forward, just top on everything.
You owe us $8,000.
We could give up this, at least the $600 increase that you have there and put it towards the minutes for the.
Michelle's volunteering too.
So I'm glad you brought that up because we have your budget here.
Actually, so
So
one more thing on the minutes. So I was doing the minutes for the Orchard Group, and I have to say that the AI solution is remarkable and cuts the time I spent doing minutes by about 90%. So you still have to review them, but you can get a transcript of the meeting, run it through AI, generate detailed meeting minutes, and then just go over it. And it takes about 10 minutes instead of an hour to do a long meeting. So I would look very seriously at finding a service, and I use free web services. I don't pay a penny for it.
I would like to have a conversation with you about that. That's good.
I'm sorry. That was $6,000.
600. I just found that.
Oh, for you, 90%.
So yeah, so we did add, this is your budget up on the screen. So for the finance committee, we did add $600 to clerical wages to reflect your actual spending. So,
You were over.
Right, we were doing lots of meetings on our own.
That could happen.
It could, but,
We just so appreciate having them here.
right, we would feel lost without the select board.
well, that's
So we
there
still
now.
have, there's still money there, there's $800. So I think we can get by. Even though Marilyn caught me in the hallway today. So, when are you gonna have a meeting?
I need some tax work on it.
And then Marilyn, do I have the solution for you? How do you feel about it? The charter, member of the charter committee, there you go, it's great, it's great. So that's there for the time being, but you know, again, if that's something you want to change, we can do that. And then, one of the primary things that's under the finance committee, is the reserve fund. Just to remind everyone, we did make an adjustment on that into FY 25. I think, what was the amount before, Steve? Do you remember offhand? I don't think it's not enough.
That's not that.
But you're thinking it was a different thing.
I don't think so.
It was reduced.
Oh,
Do-
It was 290.
Yeah.
This was 290.
Okay.
And just for clarity, this is a kind of a catch-all reserve fund for emergency.
Right, this is, so at the end of any transfers from this is a request that.
So
that we make.
EHS needs some emergency staff
Right.
halfway through the year that can come in and do anything.
Right.
Right.
Makes sense.
So, but this is basically unchanged from FY 25 in terms of.
Again, that's two solutions I just came up with.
Giver still, giver.
There you go.
So, just for, I talked to Ryan briefly about this. If, as was mentioned, we're working on the lease for the orchard. If the lease falls through, we'll likely need to figure out, we spent,
Yeah, I mean, for the buttoning up of it, was roughly about $19,000 that we think has the class of construction to come in. Annual cost, DPW is probably another 20, 25 maybe. So, that's another factor we'd have to keep in mind should any of those things change.
so we can also come for the reserve fund.
Yes, you can.
Don't jinx me. Punch you.
That's it.
So Shiro,
To adjourn, I guess.
Second,
Oh, there's 2 minutes. Very good.
all in favor?
Aye. Motion to FinCom again.
Okay.
Aye.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Brian.